Her perfume hit me before the door opened, vanilla and sweat. Room 417, Marriott downtown. I paid the bill with our joint card. But the name on the reservation? Derek Langston. My wife's old friend from work. The shame burned hotter than the betrayal. She won't see what's coming. The receipt was warm, still curling at the edges from the printer when the front desk handed it over. I'd asked for the bill under my name, like any normal husband checking on a reservation. The clerk smiled like she was helping a tired business traveler, not a man stepping into his own execution. Your wife already checked in earlier with Mr. Langston, she said, casual as coffee. They requested the corner suite. I didn't flinch. Didn't ask who the hell Mr. Langston was. I nodded like I knew. Like I wasn't standing there realizing my wife had used our joint credit card to fuck another man in silk sheets I had technically paid for. Ashley always said she hated hotels. Too cold, too fake, too many people. She'd complain about the smell of bleach on the pillows or how the air conditioning dried out her skin. But there she was, holed up at the Marriott downtown on a Wednesday afternoon, sharing a king-size bed with him. And not just some anonymous hookup. No, he had a name. Derek. Derek Langston. The kind of man whose name already sounded like a problem. She told me she was going to her sister's for the night. Emma needs me, she said, keys already in hand, wearing that oversized hoodie she only put on when she wanted to look effortlessly unavailable. No makeup. Hair up in a bun. A believable costume for a concerned sister. But her perfume lingered in the kitchen after she left. Sweet. Expensive. Not the drugstore stuff she used every day, this was the Tom Ford bottle she couldn't afford last Christmas. So I followed her. I never thought I'd be the type. The jealous husband. The stalker. But that perfume was too loud. Too polished. And her voice on the phone the night before had trembled a little too hard when I asked about Emma's birthday plans. She gave me a full breakdown, dates, restaurants, gift ideas, as if she'd rehearsed it. Turns out, she had. I waited in the parking garage for 3 hours. Watched as she got out of the Uber, adjusted her hoodie, then kissed Derek on the mouth like no one would ever find out. He pulled her suitcase from the trunk. I watched his hand graze the small of her back, like he owned her. Like I didn't exist. She didn't even look back. I took a photo. Just one. Enough to kill whatever doubt was left inside me. Then I waited another hour before going to the front desk. Didn't want to make a scene. Didn't want her to see me. I just needed to confirm what I already knew. I left with the receipt. Name, room number, time stamp. It felt like holding a birth certificate for a different kind of life, the one where I stopped pretending she was still mine. When I got home, her coffee mug was still on the counter. Lipstick on the rim. Same mug she used the morning after our anniversary last year. The little lies live in the details. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just stood there and listened to the silence that used to be a marriage. The silence that was suddenly full of answers. There was no hotel on her credit card statement. She'd hidden it under a miscellaneous travel line. Smart. Sloppy. Like a cheating bitch who'd done this more than once. I opened her laptop. She never logged out of anything. Gmail, Facebook, even that shared calendar we rarely used. Nothing in her inbox, nothing in her chats. But the synced messages on her Mac told a different story. Derek's name didn't show up. He was saved as therapist in her contacts. That snake. Every appointment. Every lunch. Every overnight retreat. I read the texts until the words stopped making sense. Then I started a new folder. Langston, Asset Discovery. Cold. Clean. No typos. This wasn't a reaction. It was a declaration. She thought she was cheating on a man who would spiral, scream, beg. She was wrong. The next morning, she came back smelling like hotel soap. Ashley always used lavender at home. I bought it in bulk, because she said it helped her sleep. That morning, though, the scent was industrial. Bleach towels, high thread count linen, the sharp floral disinfectant they spray in elevators. She tried to mask it with dry shampoo and a smile. Emma says hi, she said, setting her phone face down on the counter. She never used to do that. I watched her put away groceries she didn't buy. Tossed a lemon into the fruit bowl like she always did, trying to recreate normal. She kissed my cheek. It landed wrong. Too light, too fast, like she'd been kissing someone else for real and forgot how to fake it properly. I nodded, said nothing. Let her sit in the lie. I'd already printed the receipts. Not just the hotel bill, everything. Flights. Dinners. A second phone plan I didn't recognize, paid through a prepaid Visa. I'd started digging, and Ashley's little fantasy world unraveled like cheap thread. She thought she was careful. But all cheaters leave fingerprints. Especially the ones who think they're smarter than everyone else. I watched her scroll her phone while sipping coffee. Thumb moving too slowly, too intentionally. She wasn't reading anything, just pretending to be busy. Her screen lit up for half a second. I caught the name, Dr. L. She caught me looking. Smiled. Just confirming next week's session. You said I should keep up with it. Right. Therapy. That's how she'd covered her absences. Her emotional distance. How she turned every suspicion back on me. You've been distant, Mark. I feel like you're not present anymore. Maybe we both need space. That's what she said last month. Framed it like I'd broken something. Like I hadn't been watching her slip away one therapy retreat at a time. I played dumb. Nodded. Poured her another coffee. She gave me the look of a woman who thinks she's won. Calm. Pitying. Like I was some broken man she had to manage. But she flinched when I picked up her phone. Just a second. A muscle twitch in her jaw. Most people would miss it. I didn't. You mind if I check the weather? She hesitated, half a breath too long. Sure. I opened Safari. She reached for her cup, hands tight around the handle like it was an anchor. I typed Marriott Downtown into the search bar. The autofill offered. Marriott Downtown Suite Reservation. Marriott Downtown Directions. Marriott Downtown Amenities. She laughed nervously. Oh, I looked that up last week. Emma was thinking about staying there after her conference. I nodded again. Of course. Emma. The ever-useful alibi. Ashley turned her body away from me slightly, subtle. Not defensive, just strategic. She'd studied me long enough to know I wasn't the yelling type. That's how she built her affair, brick by careful brick, behind the mask of my calm. She didn't know calm was the most dangerous kind of fury. I played along. Told her I'd be working late this week. Gave her room to breathe. Enough rope. That night, I checked our Ring camera logs. She hadn't gone to Emma's. The plate scanner confirmed her Uber dropped her off 5 miles in the opposite direction. She didn't even turn off location tracking. Her whole affair was built on the idea that I'd never check. And she was right, until now. I watched the footage frame by frame. Her body language when she left the house. Confident. Almost relieved. She looked lighter without me. The same woman who cried at our wedding, who begged me to stay when I almost took the job in Seattle. That woman was gone. Replaced by this cold, efficient liar. I printed a still from the video, her smile as she climbed into the back seat. Slipped it into the folder with the hotel bill. The next page was blank. But I already knew how it would fill. 3 days passed. She didn't cheat again, at least, not in person. But her phone never stopped glowing. Late at night, when she thought I was asleep, I could hear it. That soft buzz on the dresser. She never used to keep it face down. Now it lived there, like a loaded weapon just out of reach. She'd glance over at it the way an addict looks at the next fix, nervous, hungry, guilty. She texted in the bathroom with the fan running. Laughed too loudly at videos I wasn't watching. Answered calls with, "Hey babe," in a voice she never used on me anymore. And every time I looked at her, I saw that room. Room 417. Derek's hand on her waist. Her suitcase rolling behind her like a willing accessory to betrayal. She stopped asking me how work was. Stopped complaining about her job. I was no longer useful as a mirror. She didn't want to reflect anymore, just disappear into that fantasy where she could be someone else, somewhere else, without the burden of me. I noticed she changed her shampoo. It wasn't lavender anymore. Something citrusy. Clean. Like she wanted to smell like a fresh start. One morning, I watched her fix her makeup for 20 minutes. She said she was working from home. Claimed it was a camera-on meeting. But I know how she looks when she's trying to impress someone, cheeks a little more flushed, lips drawn sharper. That wasn't a Zoom call face. That was a him face. I started making small tests. I left my watch by the sink and told her I lost it. She said she hadn't seen it. But I found it in the laundry room, behind a stack of towels, right where I knew she'd try to hide it if she was distracted. The Ashley I married never missed anything. The Ashley who was cheating missed everything. I started echoing her words back to her. Tiny phrases she said to Derek in her texts. Emotional weather. Safe container. Holding space. She blinked every time. Couldn't place where she'd heard them. Thought she was slipping. Thought maybe she'd said too much. She hadn't said anything. I'd just been reading their messages from her laptop, still synced, still stupid. She deleted them on her phone but forgot how iCloud worked. Every "miss you" echoed across devices like gunshots in an empty house. She told him she felt seen. Told him I was distant, emotionally avoidant. That I shut down under pressure. That she was relearning who she was. Snake words. Weaponized therapy language. She turned every quiet moment between us into evidence for her affair. One night, I asked her if she wanted to watch that old documentary we used to love. She looked up from her phone and said, "I'm kind of in a different headspace lately." Different headspace. Right. Derek's headspace. I nodded. Said nothing. Let her spiral into her own script. The next day, I met with a lawyer. Not for divorce. Not yet. I wanted to know what she didn't, what silence could buy. How much documentation I needed. How custody might work. How joint accounts could be quietly separated. How property division played when infidelity was demonstrable. The lawyer asked if I had proof. I slid the folder across the table. She opened it, flipped through the pages, hotel receipts, text transcripts, location data, camera stills. Her only words, "This is airtight." I didn't smile. Just nodded. Folded my hands. Ashley had built a story where I was the problem. Detached, indifferent, emotionally stunted. She didn't know I'd been archiving her lies in chronological order. She didn't know I was the quiet kind of storm. Ashley started wearing jewelry again. Not a lot. Just enough to suggest someone had been complimenting her lately. She put on earrings for a grocery run. A thin gold chain she hadn't touched in months for a quick Target stop. Once, she wore heels to walk the dog. Said they were already on from earlier. She always had an explanation, harmless, breezy, flat. But every small inconsistency clinked together like wind chimes in a dead room. You start noticing what doesn't belong when you stop lying to yourself. She cooked dinner on Thursday. That mattered, she never cooked on Thursdays. She used to complain that Thursdays were emotionally spent. Said the week had drained her by then. But suddenly we had lemon chicken and candlelight. She was soft that night. Too soft. "I miss us," she said, mid-bite, not looking at me. I waited. She reached for my hand across the table. Held it like she wanted to remember what my skin felt like. I watched her fingers. No tremble. No guilt. Just calculation. Testing the water. "I've been thinking about us a lot lately," she said. "How we've been, drifting. I don't want that." She looked me in the eye. "You felt it too, right?" I could have nodded. Could have made it easier for her. But I held the pause. "You mean the part where you gaslight me into feeling like your distance is my fault?" That stopped her. Just for a beat. "What?" "Mark, no, I'm trying to reconnect. This isn't about blame. She leaned in, all therapy voice and slow blinking. But the mask cracked around the edges. Her pupils widened just a little too much. Her breath hitched before she caught it. I leaned back. You're right. Let's work on us. That calmed her. Gave her permission to keep lying. She poured more wine. Relaxed. Told me about her day, edited, scrubbed, pre-cleansed of the part where she texted Derek while pretending to be in a Zoom meeting. I'd seen the screenshots. He's looking at me like he used to, she'd told him. That line stuck. Not because it was true, but because it was exactly the kind of fantasy she needed to believe. Ashley wanted to be the victim and the heroine of her story. She needed me to be the problem so she could be the one who overcame it. I started responding more. Smiling. Asking questions. Do you feel safe with me? I asked once, watching her reaction. She blinked. What do you mean? You always talk about safety. In your sessions. She froze. You read my therapy notes? No, I said, still smiling. But I remember things you say. She laughed. Too loudly. God, you sounded just like my therapist for a second. I raised an eyebrow. Dr. Langston. Another freeze. A flicker. The name hit harder than she expected. No, my therapist's name is Rachel. Right, I said, sipping my drink. Just slipped out. She nodded slowly. Then stood to clear the table. I watched her walk away. Her shoulders were stiffer than they were 5 minutes ago. She was unraveling. Not from guilt. From the sense that something was shifting under her feet. That I wasn't playing my part anymore. Later that night, I left my laptop open with a random Google search. Can emotional affairs be grounds for divorce? She saw it the next morning. Didn't say anything. Just went about her day with a little more tension in her spine. I kept planting seeds. Left a manila folder on the desk labeled, Financials, Private. Let her accidentally see me texting someone named Ava and lock the screen when she walked by. It wasn't about revenge. Not yet. It was about letting her feel the walls breathe. Letting her think maybe I wasn't as asleep as she hoped. She used to be a master at control. Now she was trying too hard to manage the temperature. She didn't know I'd already taken the match to the foundation. It was Tuesday when I found the backup. Old iPad. Buried in the hall closet under a box labeled Winter Scarves. Battery dead, screen cracked. Hers, not mine, last used sometime in 2021. But synced to the same Apple ID. She'd forgotten it existed. That was her mistake. It came to life after an hour on the charger. A ghost resurrected from the mess she thought she'd buried. Messages started loading. Photos. Notes. Calendar events. Everything. She hadn't changed her password. I didn't expect her to. Ashley was always good at covering the surface, but she never expected the rot underneath to get checked. The text hit like a punch in the throat. Not just Derek. There were others. Smaller, briefer. A bartender named Joel. A healing coach named Brandon. But Derek was the constant. The center. Every other name was an audition, Derek was the role she gave the full performance to. It wasn't just sex. It was worse. You see me. You make me feel worthy. I wish I'd met you first. Mark is like furniture, always there, always cold. Furniture. That word hollowed something out of me. Not because it was cruel. Because it was honest. That's how she saw me. As structure. As background. Not a person. Not anymore. There were photos. Hotel mirrors. His hand on her thigh. Her hand holding wine in the corner suite, room 417 again. No faces, but I didn't need them. The timestamp matched the receipt. She wore the same sweater she claimed she lost at her sister's. One video. Silent. Just her staring at the camera, smiling softly. Lipstick smudged. Hair messy. No words, just the look of a woman completely absorbed in someone else's world. I transferred everything to a drive. Labeled it, Exhibit A, Marital Misrepresentation. My lawyer would appreciate the irony. That night, I made her favorite dinner. Seared salmon, roasted garlic potatoes, steamed asparagus. She came home late, called it traffic. I nodded. No accusations. You didn't have to cook, she said, dropping her bag. I wanted to, I replied. Feels like we've been distant. She tilted her head. Studied me. Trying to assess the game board. I've noticed that too, she said carefully. We ate in silence for a while. I let the tension do the talking. Then, mid-bite, I asked. Do you think emotional cheating is worse than physical? She froze. Fork halfway to her mouth. What do you mean? Just curious, I said. Which would hurt you more, me sleeping with someone? Or falling in love with someone and never touching her? Ashley set her fork down. I think, they're both betrayals, she said. Equal. She nodded. Yeah. I mean, if it's real emotional intimacy, that's just as deep. Maybe deeper. Good to know, I said, sipping my wine. I've been talking to someone. She didn't move. But her pupils contracted. The reaction wasn't outrage. It was fear. Who? She asked. No one you know, I lied. Started as conversation. Nothing physical. But we've been connecting. Ashley stared at me like she'd forgotten the part where she cheated first. Like my emotional honesty was a betrayal worse than her body in Derek's bed. I stood. Cleared my plate. You okay? I asked. She forced a smile. Just surprised. Thought we said we'd be honest, I said. She nodded slowly. That night, she initiated sex. First time in months. Her way of reclaiming territory. But it felt like performance art, every movement too rehearsed. I didn't stop her. I needed her to believe the ground was stable. Just a little longer. Because while she was asleep beside me, I logged into her work email. She reused passwords. Always had. There it was, confirmation. A forwarded itinerary for a leadership retreat in Denver. Only it wasn't sent from her boss. It was from Derek. A fake domain made to look official. Can't wait to see you again. I'll bring the Pinot. You bring the smile. She hadn't even deleted it. I copied the entire thread. This wasn't an affair. It was a campaign. And she thought I'd never catch up. Ashley always left her gym bag in the trunk. Claimed she didn't like the smell of sweat in the house. That little habit ended up being her undoing. I waited until she was asleep, breathing shallow and dreamless beside me. Slipped the keys from the hook, walked to the garage like a ghost in my own life. The bag was there. Same place. Half-zipped. A towel on top. Underneath, I found a hotel room key card in a paper sleeve. Marriott. Room 1123. Not the same one. A new location. Different part of town. Same brand. Same lie. There was also a receipt folded in the side pocket. 1 glass of wine. 1 chicken Caesar salad. 1 additional guest. Charged to the room at 3:12 p.m. She told me she'd been in a webinar. I took photos of everything. Didn't touch a thing. Put the bag back exactly as I found it. She'd know soon enough. But not from me. Not yet. I spent the next morning tracking down Derek's professional footprint. The man wasn't just her lover, he was her colleague. A consultant on a wellness initiative her company had partnered with. He presented workshops, did one-on-ones with upper management. Framed himself as some kind of corporate healer. And he was using her. Clear as glass. Emails between them made it obvious, he was gathering information. Asking about internal dynamics, departmental weaknesses, HR complaints. Ashley was feeding him everything. Pillow talk turned pipeline. He wasn't in love with her. He was using her access. Building influence. Positioning himself. She thought they were soulmates. He thought she was a stepping stone. I found a LinkedIn post he wrote a week before they checked into room 417. Never underestimate the power of proximity. Influence starts with intimacy. Snake speak. Dressed up as insight. The next move wasn't emotional. It was legal. I forwarded every email to a secure account. Flagged the messages where she leaked confidential strategy discussions. Highlighted terms of their contract. There were violations in plain sight, ethics breaches, possible grounds for termination. Then I requested an anonymous compliance audit. Ashley had no idea it was coming. At home, she was calmer. Like she believed the emotional confession I made at dinner meant I was back in orbit. She started planning things again, weekend hikes, brunch with friends, a vacation just for us. I agreed to everything. Gave her the rope. She even started leaving her phone face up again. Letting the notifications show, like she'd suddenly rediscovered integrity. But I knew what I was looking for now. Derek's name wasn't in her texts anymore. It was Wellness HQ. One message stood out. Need to be more careful. He's asking questions. He. Not you. Not Mark. Another. We should cool it for a while. Timing's off. Derek was retreating. Closing doors. She was about to get left behind. I printed the entire conversation chain. Stapled it to the back of the evidence folder. And then I made a call to Ashley's boss. Anonymous tip. Just a concern party. Mentioned inappropriate client relationships. Shared phrasing from the emails. Let the seeds drop like poison. They launched the internal investigation 2 days later. Ashley came home that night pale and quiet. Said her day was weird. Corporate politics, she said, shrugging. People turning on each other. I nodded. That sounds hard. She tried to gauge my face, see if I knew something. I didn't give her anything. She poured wine. Sat on the couch. Rested her feet in my lap. I feel like everything's shifting lately, she whispered. I looked at her over the rim of my glass. It is. The email hit her at 10:04 a.m. Subject line. Urgent, conflict of interest review, immediate action required. Ashley was still home, hunched over her laptop with that look she got when pretending to be busy. She read it twice, blinked, then read it again. I watched her from the kitchen, stirring coffee, heart still and quiet. She stood. Walked into the bedroom. Closed the door behind her. 5 minutes passed. Then 10. When she came out, her face was tight. Pale. She didn't say anything. Just grabbed her keys and left without breakfast. I checked the printer after she was gone. She'd printed the entire email chain. Her fingerprints were all over it now, legally speaking. She knew what it meant. Someone had reported her relationship with Derek. Not just the affair, but the breach. The sensitive client info. The conflict of interest. And it was all laid out for her boss in careful, devastating detail. Derek was smart. Slippery. He'd deny everything. And when pressure hit, he'd throw her under the bus to save himself. Because that's what snakes do when the fire reaches the grass. She thought she was building a future. He was building an exit strategy. By noon, she'd called me twice. I didn't pick up. At 1:37, I received a text. Can you talk? Something's happening at work. It's serious. I ignored it. Instead, I emailed my lawyer. Initiate full divorce proceedings. No warning. Use everything we have. She responded immediately. We'd prepped every form weeks ago. All I had to do was hit send. That afternoon, I drove to her office. Parked across the street. Waited. At 4:12 p.m., she came out with her box. One of those cardboard things with a handle and slits on the sides. Like something you'd use to move out of a dorm. Her face was cracked. Foundation couldn't hide the panic. She kept her head down. Walked fast. Got in her car without looking around. She didn't know I was watching. She didn't know her life had been collapsing in stereo. When she got home, I was already there. Come. Cooked dinner again. She barely touched it. They suspended me, she said. Pending review. They said there were ethical concerns. She didn't look at me. Couldn't. I nodded. That's serious. She flinched. Someone sent them emails. Private stuff. I don't know who would. Her voice trailed off. Then came the glance. She was putting it together. Too late. You think it was me? I asked softly. She swallowed. Was it? I shrugged. You always said you wanted truth between us. She didn't speak. Just stared. Then, why are you being so calm? I met her eyes. Because I'm done pretending. I stood. Placed a thick envelope on the table. She didn't touch it. What is that? Divorce papers. Already signed. You'll find the asset disclosures in the back. Everything's divided. I took nothing you didn't cheat for. Her face collapsed. You're serious? Very. She shook her head. You can't do this. You can't just ambush me like this. You said we were working on things. No, I said. You said that. I watched. I let you dig your own grave, Ashley. I just made sure it had your name on it. She stood. Mark, please. We can talk about this. We can go to counseling. You already went, I interrupted. To him. To Derek. To hotel rooms and leadership retreats. She blinked fast. Tears forming now. You don't understand. I was lost. I didn't know how to. You knew how to lie. You knew how to hide hotel key cards in your gym bag. You knew how to save him as Wellness HQ. She sat down. Hard. The envelope was still there. Still untouched. I left it and walked out. Locked the office door behind me. Cancelled her access to the shared account. Changed the alarm code. I'd been preparing every step. Quietly. Legally. Thoroughly. No yelling. No drama. Just consequences. By midnight, she called 10 times. Sent 17 messages. Voice notes. Apologies. I didn't open a single one. She wasn't talking to her husband anymore. She was talking to her consequence. She showed up at my office the next day. Security called up, said there was a woman downstairs claiming to be my wife. I told them the truth, she isn't. I watched through the glass as they turned her away. She didn't cry. Not in front of them. She just stood there, clutching her phone like it could still fix something. As if texts could patch over what she'd burned to the ground. That night, I had the locks changed. Left her a single text. Check your email. You've been served. The delivery had already happened, at her sister Emma's house, right in front of their mother. 3 witnesses. All legal. Clean. Sharp. Ashley's email was timestamped before she even got in her car. Inside it, a full breakdown of the divorce terms. No alimony. No house. Limited claim to joint assets. Evidence attached. Her lawyer called mine within 4 hours. We'd like to negotiate terms, she said. There's nothing to negotiate, my lawyer replied. She waived that right when she started a 6-month affair with a corporate consultant and compromised internal documents. The silence on the other end of the line said everything. Ashley didn't just cheat on me. She torched her reputation. And Derek? He'd already vanished. Dropped the contract with her company. Deleted his social media. Moved on like she was just another job he wrapped and filed away. She'd bet everything on a man who never planned to stay. At work, I got a call from HR. You were right to report it, the director said. If this had gone further, we could have been liable. I told her I was just trying to protect my interests. She thanked me. Offered discretion. Promised the fallout wouldn't touch me. Ashley was unofficially blacklisted by the end of the week. Not fired, yet. But sidelined. Isolated. Left to twist while they conducted the investigation. At home, I started packing. I didn't tell her I was moving out. I didn't need to. I left her the guest room. Stripped of everything except the bed frame and a pillow. Left the walls bare. Took the framed photos. Even the one she always hated, us on the pier in Santa Monica, before the cracks started showing. I moved into a condo across town. Temporary. Clean. Quiet. She called. I didn't answer. She sent long texts full of, "I never meant to hurt you," and, "I was just trying to find myself." Every sentence was about her. Even now. That Friday, she posted a photo on Instagram, sunset, ocean, quote about healing. No mention of me. No apology. Just an aesthetic caption. Some things break so we can become. I sent it to my lawyer. Proof of her mindset. Proof she wasn't grieving, just rebranding. The next step came quietly. Ashley received a letter from the state ethics board. A former colleague of mine, a silent ally, had filed a secondary complaint, using language from her emails. Enough to trigger an inquiry into her professional conduct. Derek wasn't named. But the implications were clear. She called me 3 times that night. Left a voicemail. "You win, okay. You got what you wanted. Are you happy now?" But this wasn't about winning. This was about truth. Exposure. Balance. She tried one last thing. She showed up at Emma's birthday brunch. Family gathering. Big table. Smiles and wine. I timed it perfectly. Mid-toast, the server approached her with a manila envelope. Not a subpoena. Not a scene. Just final revisions. A reminder that the story was over. Her mother looked confused. Emma froze. Ashley opened the envelope, saw the updated division of assets, and finally, her face cracked for real. No defense. No control. Just a woman holding the mirror she'd refused to face. I left before dessert. Didn't look back. Didn't need to. The day the divorce finalized, I didn't tell anyone. No post. No toast. No reflection. Just a quiet signature. A digital confirmation. A name unlinked from mine in every system that mattered. She messaged me one last time. I don't know how we got here. I didn't respond. Because she did know. She just didn't expect to arrive alone. Ashley moved in with Emma. Or maybe just near her. I didn't check. The part of me that used to care where she slept was gone. What mattered was this: the silence stayed. No more alerts. No more lies in my inbox. No more perfume trails in the kitchen. The house became a vacuum where I could finally hear myself think. And what I heard wasn't rage. It was relief. The toxic air had cleared. I'd lived for months in a house filled with scripted apologies, weaponized silence, and orchestrated affection. It took losing everything to realize what peace actually sounded like. She tried reaching out once more, handwritten letter. That was new. Old school. Romantic, maybe, if it hadn't come from the same hand that deleted messages like, "I miss your hands," right before sliding into my bed. She said she was healing. Said she was in therapy again, this time with a real one. She asked if I could hold space for forgiveness. I burned the letter in a metal tray outside the condo. She got smoke. That's all I had left to give. Legally, she was silenced. No claims. No right to my accounts. No stake in the condo. My lawyer made sure of it, every signature backed by timestamps, every asset moved before the curtain dropped. Financially, she survived. But barely. Without the job, without the consultant contract, without the future she thought she'd engineered, she was just another name in a temp pool, applying for jobs with a story she couldn't tell the truth about. People talk. The industry is smaller than she thought. And Derek? Ghost. No trail. No follow-up. No happily ever after. Just another man who found a window, climbed through, and vanished when the air turned cold. I took back my mornings. Started running again. Same route I stopped using when she started, early therapy sessions. There was a peace in retracing the steps I'd once surrendered to her lies. Now it was mine again. Every streetlight, every mailbox. They no longer whispered betrayal. They just existed. Clean. Neutral. Unclaimed. I saw her once. Grocery store. She looked smaller. Not thinner. Just reduced. Hair pulled back. No earrings. She paused when she saw me, eyes searching for a signal. I nodded once. Then walked past. She didn't follow. She knew. The final file I saved on my computer was labeled closed, ashleyfinal.pdf. I never opened it again. She said once that I was distant. That I didn't show emotions. She mistook silence for emptiness. But silence isn't a void. It's a verdict. And mine was final.